And I gotta watch what I say.
All right, Jason, you've got your chat box here. You're so smart. Right here. My boss, you can switch the camera to me if you want. You don't have to, but
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
yep. Zoom it in. This is how they control it if you want to do that. You don't have to.
You see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I screen share the PowerPoint. Here's your clicker.
Cool. Thank you.
That's it.
I'm technically off today. I'm here for class.
In the front?
Yeah. Then you can see if I'm falling asleep on you.
All right. Pick on it.
You know, throw something at me, hit the table really loud.
I was like, hi, and I just saw a bone here.
Yeah, and then I was like, whenever she
It's
passed.
not like this, it's not me.
Hey, before you start the class, let me ask you something. What are you reading right now?
Good question. I'm reading 3 books. So personally, I'm reading a book called Green Lights, the Matthew Condo's life story.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
It is an amazing book. I got it as a gift for Christmas. And I just had one morning, I woke up at like 2 o'clock, and I couldn't sleep, so I was like, I'm just gonna read a little bit, see if I can get tired again. And I just got into it, and it's really, really good. I never realized how inspirational it is.
Like to other people?
Yeah, his life story is incredible. So, and then in maps, we're reading Shift. And then High 10 is my other book.
High 10.
High 10.
High 10.
It is the #1 book I've ever read in culture. Ever.
What's the name of that Matthew McConaughey book?
Green Lights. It's really good. Oh, I'm sorry. Good morning, Brian and Michael. All right, so let's get started because we don't have a ton of time. So today we're going to talk about lead generation and farming specifically. So your last session was with Wes, is that right? And it was in prospecting to Mets. Is that right? Awesome. So today,
Sometimes it works.
it's okay. We will just do it. And okay, that's not what I have to do. So today, we're gonna, throughout this session, it normally is a 3-hour session, as I'm sure the other instructors have shared with you, and yet we're gonna condense this down in 2 hours. So we're gonna try to get through the introduction, really what is farming. We're gonna go through some myths of farming and how to select your farm, working with your farm, and then kind of at the end, putting it all together. So today's really the goal or the objective for today. Well, let's see first, who in here has been farming to their database or their strategy? Who has experience with farming? Okay, starting, couple. Okay. So, and online, you guys have experience with farming? Okay, so a little bit of experience. So would it be fair to say that the majority of the room is learning how to do it? Is that fair? So then for today, our goal then would be to really understand what farming is. How do you put together your farm? Like, how do you put it together? And what a first action step would be? Is that all right with you guys? And then that way we know how to do it and we know how to get results from it. Sound good? Okay. So I have asked Cassie to be my scribe this morning.
Are you ready?
Yes, as soon as you're done eating. I'm just teasing. So you guys know Cassie. All right, so it's right there. So share with me a little bit. Let's go over, like, what are you doing for lead generation? Well, just in the past week, what are some activities that you've done for lead generation? Door knocking, okay. What else?
I had an open house.
Okay. Open house, door knocking, what else?
Circle prospecting.
Circle prospecting. What is circle prospecting? Just sort of
Finding a radius. Find a circle, put it on a map, and then call people that are available in that map. And the circle.
So we have a specific area or house, and we're gonna call all the houses around it. So, what else?
Sphere out there.
So sphere, is that calling sphere, going to see sphere? Okay. What else?
Business to business.
So when you say business to business, what does that mean?
I mean, you could walk into a small business, talk them up, leave your card, like a whole stack of them. They'll give you some of their cards. And then you find out if there's a way that you can mutually help each other. And then you've got a contact with them if you need one of their services, and they've got a contact with you if they need real estate services.
Okay, love that. What else?
Social media.
Okay, so when you say social media, what do you mean by that?
I mean, I lazily will just post something every now and then, and yeah, no, not a real campaign, but you totally can.
Okay. What else? What else have you done in the past week that's been prospecting?
So quiet.
No.
Any-
Anything different than that?
Someone online just chimed in with something.
Yeah, door hangers, they said.
Outdoor hangers?
Yeah.
Okay.
I write a lot of letters. I don't know how much gen that is as much as follow-up, but I
Okay.
write a lot.
Yeah,
of
I did
letters.
thank you cards last week.
Yeah.
So you guys follow John Maxwell? Does anyone know who John Maxwell is? Okay, so John Maxwell is an author and a speaker, and has programs, and his main focus is on leadership. And the reason why I bring this up is one of the things that John Maxwell, you probably say that.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. One of the things that I love about John Maxwell is it's his explanation that the learning doesn't come from doing the activity, the learning comes from the reflection. So the learning doesn't come from doing the activity, it comes from the time we take to reflect on what we did. So in these times we were talking about, the past week we went door knocking, we've done some open houses, we've done some circle prospecting, we called sphere, business to business, some social media, door hangers, we've done thank you cards. What would be some takeaways or some thoughts that you've had over the past week from your lead generation?
Efficiency is like very much key. Like with what I have had success with and what I really want to get good at is being able to do a much higher volume. And so there you have to just like cut out a lot of the extra stuff and figure out how to minimize the amount of wasted time that you have doing that activity, especially if you want to stay in like a solid 3-hour lead generation block.
Good takeaway. So what else?
Mine is always, it's mindset, is being able to overcome whenever you start hitting a roadblock, and either bust through that roadblock or figure out what's your roadblock and how to get around it. So.
Mindset. And thank you for being bold enough to say that, because I think we all experience that. I don't care what level of production you're at or how many years you've been in the business, we all can be faced with that right there. So thank you for being vulnerable. What else?
Just the questions why it didn't get done. So the reflection on, what could I have done different, or what can I do different going forward to make sure that stuff actually gets done.
You know what I love about what you said is it's progress over perfection, right? Progress over perfection. Because if we achieve for perfection every time, are we ever actually going to achieve it? And yet it's kind of that, let's just get 1% better. Let's reflect on, see what could we have done better, then let's take the next step. So I love that. Thank you. What else? What other takeaways, ahas, or thoughts did you have of your lead generation over the past week?
Also too, mine was follow-up works because almost every appointment I made was someone that I've been talking to for weeks or months.
Follow-up course. I think David Caldwell actually put on your follow-up as well. So different avenues create different responses. That's good. Blocking out distractions. I love that, Brian. So I'll tell you something that I've gotten in the habit of doing now is if I'm on an important call or if I'm making calls, I take my phone and I put it on Do Not Disturb. And on my settings, actually it was an agent that showed this to me. And I just changed my settings for the important people in my life so that way they can get through. So if there's an emergency at home, my wife's gonna get through, my kids are gonna get through. And yet everyone else is gonna get a message that says my phone is on Do Not Disturb. And I'll get back with them. So what would you say is and I think we might have talked about a few of them, but what are some of the challenges you think you're facing in your lead generation?
I'd say the biggest one for anyone is fear of rejection.
Good. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Everyone's afraid to cold call somebody because they're afraid they're going to tell them no or get upset with them or tell them I'm not interested, or they're going to make them upset because you're being a salesperson or something like that.
So how do you overcome that?
Keep doing
Keep doing it?
it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Just be genuine and offer them something, like kind of maybe not just offer them, approach it as a lead, but also offer them, if they need help with their home or repairs or things like that, just kind of be a resource for them.
So I hear you say come from value and be genuine. Yeah, I agree with you. What else? Because I think you're right. Everyone faces that. What other ways could you get over that or overcome that?
I think it's mindset.
Mindset?
You change the way you view, like, don't take it personal. It's business. If that person don't want to talk or rejects you, the next one will talk to you, will listen to you.
I think repetition,
Ooh, that's good.
because it's uncomfortable, but if you've done it enough, then you're outside of that and you overcome that fear because you're conditioned to do it.
I love that. So has anyone ever started a new workout routine and had to go to the gym for the first time?
Yes.
And is it a little uncomfortable when you go that first time?
Yes.
And then once you do it every day and you do it for 3 or 4 months, then what happens? What's that?
You get stronger.
Yeah. And you start to feel comfortable in your environment. Yeah, I love that. I also love in the moment when you don't have the confidence yet, when maybe you don't have the experience yet. Has anyone read the book, The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins? So Mel says in life when you
It's in my car.
So Mel says when you face something in life you don't want to do, you have 5 seconds to get into action and before your brain kicks in to tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't do it. And so she says 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and jump. She says that if you do it in that 5 seconds, your brain doesn't have time to talk you out of it. If you wait longer than 5 seconds, your brain will create this whole story around why you shouldn't do it. The 5-second rule. Awesome. Time management, do it today. Will you guys help me watch for the comments up here? So I'm not as used to watching for the comments. I'm used to interacting with the room. So today is specifically for farming. So throughout this course, you went through the introduction to Power 1, the validity and positioning, prospecting, marketing, leverage the database. That's kind of the foundation to everything. Wes went over the working with your Mets. Today, we're going to be right here. This farming. I love this because it's kind of like that map of you're here. Look here. So I love models. So just a little bit about this class. So I think that they went through like the ground rules for the class and participating. And the one thing I was just going to share for us here today, if we can all agree, this is just going to be more of a conversation. So I don't want you to think that I'm up here teaching. I want to think that we're going to walk through this together. Is that all right? Okay. And then the second thing I'm going to ask, we're going to have some reading as we go through here. And if we could just start here and we're just going to go this way and wind our way around and just take turns. Is that all right with you guys? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you. And we will get out of this class the amount of interaction that we put into it. And I would love to have like total interaction and let's just have fun with it. Is that cool?
Yes.
Awesome. So you guys have the article that's on, yeah, does everyone have the package? Okay. Cassie, would you read the first story? It should be on page 5 of your material.
$18,000 for 45 minutes of door knocking. That's what Joshua Stern made in Salt Lake City, Utah. Joshua, who closed 25 transactions in his first year and now closes more than 80 transactions a year, had an out-of-state customer contact him looking for a home to buy in a very desirable neighborhood. This customer wanted to move to Salt Lake City to be close to her daughter, who would be starting school at the local university. Joshua and another colleague from his office, Boyd Brown, decided to go to the neighborhood and knock on a few doors. When the homeowners opened their doors, Joshua explained he had a family that was hoping to move into this neighborhood. He believed this family would be an asset to their community, and did they know someone who was thinking of moving? Joshua also left a note with the same information at homes where no one answered. That night, Joshua received a call from a homeowner who was thinking of selling his home. Joshua ended up with both sides of the transaction for a total of $18,000 in commission. Not bad for 45 minutes of work.
So what stood out to you guys in that?
$18,000 in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And just by going out and knocking on a few doors just to find a house for a buyer, possibly, he has ended up with a lot of transactions every single year. Just by continuing to do it, probably.
That's awesome. Anything else stand out?
That he earned a good review.
Ooh, that's good insight.
Some happy clients.
Yeah.
Word of mouth. Look what my agent did for me.
Has anyone ever heard a story like that from here in the office? Maybe?
We're living one right now. I think it was a cold call. She has three houses to sell and then a potential buy that we're in the middle of navigating through with her. It's a cold call.
I've got one. I had someone that said that they wanted to put a business in a certain spot, and I went and door knocked it, but 3 properties under contract. I door knocked him. So as we're going through farming, we're going to get a little bit more specifics on farming. In the past couple of classes you've been through, they've talked a little bit about prospecting and marketing, right? And how they interact. And so we're going to go dive a little bit deeper into that. And what is that?
Currently on transactions 10 and 11 from a cold call 6 months ago.
Nice. Love that. Follow-up works. So I love this class. This honestly is how I built my business. My entire business is based around this right here. So I honestly couldn't have picked a class that was closer to my heart than this one. For those that don't know me, my name is Jason Maxwell. I've got an office in Nixa, so I've got the mega agent office in Nixa. I've been selling real estate for 18 years now. Got into business because my dad was in real estate at the time, and he sold for 35 years. And And so I've honestly been in, even before that, I built houses. Before that, I was in property management. So this is all I've done my entire life. And farming is really how I built what I have. So I look forward to sharing a little bit more of that with you as we go. So if I could get my scribe back out here for just one more second. So what would make this training experience amazing for you? So what are a couple of things that if this right here, you would say this was a win today?
Those are bombs.
I'll chime in. I wasn't the one that said it in a couple of classes ago, but more how and less why. Like, I think we've all been convinced that we need to do this.
Yeah.
More of like the in-depth on how you're doing it and
Okay.
more so than philosophy of why we should do it.
Okay.
That would be helpful for me.
More how, less why.
I think that's what I face is like, I don't have any problem doing those. It's just a model to make sure that what I'm doing, my time being invested is actually going to pay off. So it's like, you know, the door knocking, for instance, what's the routine or is it just going and knocking doors and you're already beating the battle? Or is there, you know, what's the model for that type of?
Okay, so we're looking for what is the model for specifically farming look like? Is that right? Okay, love that. What else? I love this, guys. Keep it coming. What else today would make this amazing? Like we walk out here and you'd be like, that was the most amazing class ever.
I think just focusing what we personally from today, things we talk about, what we can implement in our businesses and making a plan. I think that the how, if we get all the components in the model, then it's our responsibility to follow it. But what they're saying, I think we all kind of understand at afar what it is, but just honing in on the actual purpose and what we can implement in our businesses. But so that's you and us, but that's like us.
Okay, so the how to implement, is that what you're, so is it
I
kind of,
think it correlates to that. I think a lot of it is just more clarity and figuring out what personally I should implement more in my business.
okay.
So I think that's.
How to
another
implement
how.
and what to implement? Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
just like clarity and kind of a plan.
Okay, clarity on the plan. Love that.
And you're obviously great at this, so it's not trying to recreate it and follow other things that you're saying. So it's the model. I think it's once again the model.
All right, more how, less why, the model, how to implement and what to implement. Anything else you guys think of that would make today just amazing? Okay, is that our short list then? We achieved that. and
Do
we'll-
we want to role play?
No.
Sorry.
If I were the one role playing, would you want to role play?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
He
Yeah.
wants to, he's
Yeah,
ready.
I will role play with you if you're the agent and I'm the customer.
ready.
100%, yeah.
Would that be beneficial?
Oh, yeah.
Probably.
I'll take either role because I think you learn a lot more from being the agent and getting cooked in front of everybody. Like that, you take that home.
Okay.
He wants to
Well,
be
you can get
roasted.
cooked. We want to watch.
I want to
You
observe
can
your
roast Justin.
I want to watch you get roasted, Justin.
Okay, so here's the intention. Since you know this is normally a 3-hour class, we're gonna condense down to 2 hours. I've set a couple of alarms for myself. And whenever my intention is the first hour, I want to get through just the foundation of what farming is and what it's not. And then regardless of where we're at, when I hit that mark of an hour, I'm going to switch gears and we're going to start going into the planning stages, regardless of where we've gotten the foundation, because that last hour is going to, like, we have to build a foundation for it. And everything you've told me is important is that last hour. So you guys good with this? Cool, let's move. So what do you think of when you think of farming? The word farming, what do you think of?
Cultivating.
Good word. Cultivating, what else?
Growing.
Growing,
Food, crops.
food, crops, what else?
I think where it all starts, planting the seed.
Planting the seed. Old McDonald. Right, so, and yet when we think of farming, it might sound like an old term, and yet, do we really think this is an old term?
Tractors and plows.
What's that?
Sorry, we're reading tractors and plows.
Tractors and plows, okay.
Michael Rice.
So farming might be an old term. And yes, some of these things are kind of the reason why they call it farming, right? We're cultivating, we're planting seeds, we're watering it every day. We're getting the results or the crops later down the road. So that is what farming is all about. So this is what's great about, as we move forward, these 3 questions. Do you see these in your manual? It should be page 9. And I specifically want, if you have a highlighter, highlight these 3 questions. Because everything we talk about moving forward, these 3 questions you will reference back to. Or if you want to, write them down on a piece of paper, whatever that looks like. Just these are the most important questions we have moving forward, because we're going to reference back to these several times. Where do they live? Who are they? And what do they like? So when we talk about farm, we could be talking about market segment. We could be talking about narrowing the market. What's your niche? You know, Gary, I remember being at Mega Camp and Gary saying, just pick the street. Just pick the street you want to own and just go own the street. Pick the street and just own the street. And then when you own the street, then take the next street. And then when you have those 2 streets, then take the subdivision. So we're going to talk here in a minute about the different types of farms. And these are the 3 questions that are going to help you choose that. Okay. So the 3 types of farms that you can have would be geographical farm, demographic farm, and psychographic farm. So the first one is just, where are they? So, you know, the county, the state, the metropolitan area, the subdivision, neighborhood, the street. The demographic would be like age, gender, income, maybe net worth, what they do for a living, nationality, language, those types of things. Psychographic, don't get too caught up in that word, just what they like is, you know, what are their interests, what are their hobbies, their lifestyle, values, property preference, like investment property, condos. So on page 11, if you see in your workbook, so take just a minute here and just put next to each one of those which category you think those fall in. Is it geographic, demographic, or psychographic? You guys see that in your manual? Should be page 11. Put a G if it's geographic, a D if it's demographic, or a P if it's psychographic. All right, so everyone got this something down?
Mhm.
Okay, investors, which one is that?
Psychographic.
All of them.
All of them.
She said all of them. You said P. Anyone have a different answer?
Oh, D.
That was D. It was demographic. Okay, so what's your rationale on the demographic?
Because people who want to invest have extra money aside and they're planning for the future. And that's what makes them, it's not like a hobby or interest that they, okay, now I change it back to P. I just talked myself out of that one on live television.
Oh, no, hold on. Live television. So you're describing that right there, is that right?
No, not income, not work, because I mean, you don't have to be worth a lot to invest.
Okay. Okay, so you think it's P?
Yeah, I think it's P because it's what they're into. They're into saving and planning.
Okay. And we have a different answer besides P.
I put all of them.
Yeah,
For
I did as
reasons,
well.
though. I have reasons.
I think
to put
all of it's
them.
taken into account.
Yeah, I think it is because,
Ours as well.
yep,
Everything.
like, they're gonna be targeted in a certain area because they're gonna wanna invest in a certain
I
area.
mean, price point, and that's gonna
Price point.
affect their investment.
Their income and their net worth is going to take into effect of what they're gonna be investing in.
How much they can pay
And-
for rent based on the area.
Okay. How about first time home buyer?
D.
I put D and G.
You put what?
I put D and G.
D and G.
I'm all D on this one.
All D. Okay. How about luxury homes?
G and D.
G and D. How about condos?
P.
And everything different besides P on condos.
That could be G. Like, what do they sell down in Branson, down by the lake? Mostly. I mean, you can like a whole farm of condos.
Okay, so who buys a condo?
Everybody. A lot of people.
Sometimes single, first-time home buyers can buy condos. It could be a vacation home,
Families.
families. I put all of them, but I probably am just overthinking everything.
Well, you're right.
So you are right,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
because all of these are really all of, it just, like, where do they live? Who are they? What do they like? Like, you're going to, yes, you might start down one path and say, this is the neighborhood I want to focus on. That's just the first step. Then you have to start to learn about them. Like, what do they like to do? Like, what's the average age? What's their average income? Like, you then have to learn what they do on the weekends. Are they families? Do they have kids? Like, it's really all of them. And I kind of tricked you on that one, sorry about that.
Hey, you're losing our trust. Trick question out.
Technically, I was reading. All right, so if you'll move on to the next page is page 13. And Cassie, you want to start us off by reading the myth and the truth, and we're going to go down the line.
The myth, farming takes too long and costs too much money to justify the efforts. The truth, farming can become the core of your business over time and it doesn't have to cost much.
Whenever you have a good business plan put together for farming, it becomes everything. It's not separate. It intertwines with everything that you do. And I'm going to give some examples here in a little bit. Next, Justin.
Like, read the paragraph?
So myth 2.
Myth 2, someone else already dominates the farm and they get all of the business. But the truth is, no one is ever as dominant as you think.
No one ever has 100% market share. Like, on average, even someone that's a high producer in a target market probably only has 20 to 30%. So that means there's still at least 70% there that other people have that opportunity. And no matter how good they are in that target area, there's always something that they don't do well. Myth 3.
A farm limits you to that area or specialty. Myth 3, truth. A farm can be one of your most productive sources of business, but it does not have to be your only source.
What do you guys think about that one?
Go out and door knock half the day, make some calls, follow up, run a couple of social media ads. Just get your 4 legs of lead gen in there.
So I'll give an example. So does anyone know where my area beside you that I farm?
Nixa.
So I farm Nixa.
Yes.
Has anyone ever seen one of my listings in Springfield? I take them. Branson, I take those. I sold them in Bolivar. I went to Sparta. I'll take them there. Yet what I'm known for is what?
Nixa.
Nixa. So I have an area that's specific to me, and yet by default, someone says, hey, you did such a great job for me over here, and I've got this property over here, or I've got a family member over here, and of course, I'm gonna go work it. Myth 4.
Farming is all about mailers and mass marketing. Truth, farming done well is synergistic application of both marketing and prospecting approaches.
I mean, we probably have talked about that in the past, haven't they, about the marketing and prospecting combined. So I know that the common myth is thinking that farming is just mailers and marketing. It is so much more than that. I mean, like I said, it becomes who you are, like so intertwined with everything you do. The reason why Nixa is my focus, and the reason why people say that, and I don't do any mass, I do very little mailers. And mine is all face-to-face stuff. So, myth 5.
You can stop and start your farming efforts as needed. The truth is, you must pursue your farm consistently and persistently.
Yeah, so here's the thing about farming. So when you get started at farming, it can be so, it can work so well that you will see the benefits of it for years and years to come. The one thing though, it does take a little consistency and time to get up and going. When you're measuring results on farming, it can take as long as 6 months to start to see results on it. So just know it has a compounding effect, just like interest does, and yet it can take some time to get going. All right, so selecting your farm. So I'll tell you a quick story about how I got started in my farm. So I got licensed in 2004, and I wouldn't say I didn't find any success. I just I felt like I was constantly searching to find my thing. And it was in 2013, I remember, because we went through the recession, which I did mostly short sales. It was a tough time, and come out of the recession. And at that time, I loved the community. I was I volunteered and stuff, and I started to find okay, well, I'm just gonna go to the chamber because I want to support the chamber. I wasn't going in the beginning because I wanted business from it. And I'm not saying that was the right mindset. I'm just saying that was my heart with it, was I wanted to help them grow. And then I started finding other things, and I kind of stumbled upon the Movies Night in the Park deal. And at the time, the city was like, well, we're not getting participation. People aren't coming to it. We're thinking maybe it's not worth it. And I was like, I'll just take it. I'll help you with it, and I'll just do it, make sure it doesn't fail. And so in the beginning, I was just trying to find ways that I could help. And then I started to find business come from it. And my big aha that I had pretty quickly, and I don't know that I said it quite as eloquently as I might now, is when I paired my heart with what I did for a living, things just clicked. And it happened quick, actually. That first year, I remember just I went from 20 transactions, and I know that's not great, 20 transactions to 70 transactions the next year. Just, it clicked. And I didn't have to look for it. I was struggling to keep up with it. And it was so life-changing that not only is that my business, I mean, that's just what my friends know me for. And I don't mean just the real estate side. They know if we want to find something to help Nixa, even if it's not real estate related, they usually come to me because I can connect them with someone that can help them do it. And it changed my whole trajectory of life. Even I'll say my wife now has started a couple of nonprofits through the same connection. I mean, it's amazing just the compound effect it has had on my life. So it really has been amazing. Couldn't imagine what I would have done if I had done it. Okay, so now in selecting your farm, who can tell me what were the 3 questions I said we would refer back to?
Where do they live? Who are they? And what do they like?
Yep. And what are the 3 types of farms you can have?
Demographic, psychographic.
Yep. So, like I said before, those 3 are going to connect. They're going to overlap. And matter of fact, a good business plan around farming has them overlapping. So just remember that as we move forward. So 10 factors to consider when choosing your farm. Someone want to read these for me real quick? So what's next?
Which spot are you on?
You read right here if you want.
Oh, just the goals. Okay, 10 factors to consider.
Yep.
1, your goals. 2, your budget. 3, the size, 4, location, 5, haven't met versus met, 6, average sales price, 7, turnover rate, 8, market conditions, 9, competitions, and 10, your fit for the farm.
Yes. So now remember, these are the geographic. We're gonna briefly touch the others and just know some of these same concepts will apply. So your goals. So when we're looking at a farm, we wanna know what are our goals? So what do you think is a reason why you need to take that into consideration when choosing your farm?
I mean, if your goal is to make a lot of money, then maybe farming in a less affluent area is not gonna meet your goal.
That's a good point. Yeah. What else?
Your goal is to move a lot of units? Is your goal to like establish yourself in like the luxury circle of real estate? Yeah.
What else?
I have a question. On turnover rate of a neighborhood, when you farm it, how are you finding that other than just seeing, is there like a ratio or a source to find that other than just looking on MLS?
So if you're gonna look for turnover ratio, the easiest way for us to do it is to see, I mean, yeah, you'll have to look on MLS.
It's just MLS and then
Yeah.
going through past, okay.
Yeah, you can do if you're gonna do a past year, you can just look at the past year, how
Yeah.
many sold, look how many houses are in the subdivision. You can do that, you can do the street.
This is a novice question, but what is the percentage of that turnover rate to know if it's a good neighborhood to farm?
I tell you what, is it okay, can you write that question down and we'll
Okay,
come back to it?
okay,
Because we're gonna
sorry.
no, you're good.
Sorry, this is a question I have.
I think it varies a little bit.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm gonna say that is, are you farming, I guess it just varies, I'm sorry. If it's 100% on geographic, or is it bigger than that?
I've just heard, so this is just a statement, I haven't really honed in on farming yet, but some people are like, if the turnover is this percentage or this many units have been moved, then you know it's a great investment of your time to go there. So they do it by math, and that's how I think. So I'm just wondering how they come to that.
Yes, and so then it goes back to what your intention is, because if it's 100% just based on geographic, then there is a turnover ratio that they want to see.
Okay.
So it would be based on how many homes are in it. So here in a minute, we're gonna go over a formula.
Okay, okay.
And that's
There we
okay.
go.
So hold on to that question, it's
Okay.
okay. And if that doesn't answer it, I'll circle back and we'll talk about it at the end.
Okay,
Is that all right?
thank you, yeah.
So also you want to look at market share. Who dominates the market? How much of a percentage of that market do they have? What do they do great? Where might the opportunities exist? That's one thing to consider. Like for me, knowing Nixa was my focus, and I know that if I look in the past 5 years, there's not been a year in the past 5 years where less than 840 homes have sold in Nixa. So I know I could fulfill all my goals inside of Nixa. You know, I'll take listings other places. I'll take, a sale where I can get it sometimes. And yeah, I know that I can focus all my efforts right there and I can reach all of my goals. So the market is big enough for me to do it. Yeah, and you're right. Look to see what's the average price point, things like that. You also want to look to see, like, is it worth your time and money? Like, how much is it gonna, if you've got someone that is dominating at 30% market share, you might have to spend more time and money to penetrate that, or it might take longer to penetrate. You can still do it. It's just good to know, is there one person that already has it? What will it take to take a piece of it from them? Another thing to consider is how big is it? So like, as an example, if you said I'm going to market to Nixa, sorry, that's just my example where I focus on. And Nixa is a big area, right? There are like over 25,000 people that live there. So are you gonna take the whole town, or are you gonna take one subdivision, say Villages of Wicklow, and there's over 200 houses there? Or am I gonna say, I'm gonna take this street right here, and Missouri Street is gonna be my street? Probably wouldn't be what you really do. Probably I would recommend. Just when it first came to start one place and say, I'm gonna look at this. What would it take to do this? Okay, I can do that. Maybe it's 2 streets. If we're looking geographically, let's pick an area and start small and then grow bigger. And keep in mind also, so like in Nixa, there are 25,000 people that live there. How much time would it take to meet all 25,000? As opposed to take one street, and maybe there are 15 houses on this street. Like, how long would it take you to meet all of those people? So take those into considerations when you're forming yours. Location is, ironically, this is something that I think is really important, because how easy is it going to be for you to get there? I mean, if you live in Nixa and you want to take Bolivar, I mean, I just don't want to drive an hour, you know, like it's not that accessible to me. Honestly, North Springfield wouldn't be either. I wouldn't want to do that. Sparta wouldn't be an interest to me, and neither would Billings. It's just too far for me. So accessibility. You know, if you're looking geographically, look for like major, like if there's a river that cuts off, like look for the natural ways that you can say, here's my cutoff point. That a lot of times helps to pin it out. You know, what kind of homes are there? Are these big houses? Are these small houses? What are the days on the market for those? How desirable is the area? Things like that. And then also like number of Mets, like how many people do you already know there? So what do you think is the reason why it's important to know how many people you already know in that area?
You've already established a relationship with them, or initial relationship possibly.
Yeah, so what makes that so important?
Word of mouth.
Yeah,
They already kind of know you. Or
Know you, love you, rave about you.
Yeah.
Chances are they know their neighbors.
yeah, that's right. Makes it a lot easier to get into it, so. Obviously, average sales price, you want to look to see, like, does it support your goals, like your time and your turnover ratio? The national average is 4%. I know a lot of people look to 5 or 6% to invest their time in it. So I know, so I've got someone in Texas that does, this is a big part of their business. They said they won't touch a neighborhood that's less than 6. So it says on here 10%, but. So this is interesting. So have you guys seen this slide before? So how long do people stay in homes? Well, this is an old statistic, so this is not a recent statistic. And a couple of things that I thought were interesting about this. So I would be curious to see what the recent one is, because I think things have changed a little bit. I was always told that 8 to 10 years, as long as I can remember in real estate, it's always been 8 to 10 years. So the average person stays in home. I would say it's probably less than that now.
4.5, they say now.
Yeah.
You guys know what they said.
Yeah, that's
last
what.
class.
That's what
And then so we're gonna talk a little bit about how you build this out. Remember I'm gonna make this comment and just know, make your own decisions, and everyone's different. The older the homeowner is, the more likely they are to not move. So if you pick a neighborhood that has a lot of older generations, they're probably less likely to move. So, so look at days on market, number of expireds. Obviously, there are not any now. There will be though. I mean, that won't always be the market at the moment. We're talking about competition. And then really find a fit for you. So this is where we're going to start to kind of go into, we're blending the geographic to some of the others. So I'll give the example. Like for me, there was a subdivision called Forest Park in Nixa. And for a long time, it was really easy for me to relate to them because my kids were young. And there seems to be a lot of younger families in there. And it's close to a couple of the elementary schools. I owned a house near there. So like that was always a real easy neighborhood for me to relate to. And then of course, as I got older and my kids got older, it got a little bit harder for me to relate to them, and I still attempt to. And like the people that live there, what are their interests? You know, the group that lives there, what do they like to do? Are there a lot of people that live there that like to golf, and maybe you're a golfer, things like that. So how can you find the right fit for you? What works for you? Okay, so now we're gonna switch over to the demographic. We're gonna go through this somewhat quickly because like I said, I want to get to the action stuff on the end. Would someone read this one for me real quick? Next person.
So 10 factors to consider.
Yep.
1, your goals. 2, your budget. 3, the size. 4, accessibility. 5, haven't met versus met. 6, average sales price. 7, motivation. 8, current trends. 9, competition. And 10, your fit for the farm.
So they're really similar to the other one. So some popular niches for this would be like a generation. So is there an age group that maybe you want to focus on? When I was working with MAPS, I do work with MAPS. I used to have this client that I coached, and their big thing was the retirement generation. And they had an age range, and everything that they did, their events, their advertising was all geared towards people that are looking to retire. And I had some really neat events too. So is there an age range that fits you? This, a foreign-born customer, so whatever nationality you choose there. Ironically, I have a lot of clients that are Ukrainian. That seems to be, even before all this was going on, I had a lot of clients that were Ukrainians. So is there a niche for you? I had there for a while. I was really into a Chinese community, and I had a lot of clients that were Chinese. So it was really interesting in our area. Did you know that MSU has a sister campus in China? You guys familiar with that? And so the Chinese students can come and spend their last 2 semesters, or 2 years, I think, at MSU. And then afterwards, they get a choice to stay and work or go back home. And so therefore, we have a large Chinese population here because a lot of them decide to stay here and work. So that's really interesting. Second homes, so obviously Branson is a big second home community. There's a lot you can do in there, investment. So we know a lot of people that are into investing, right? So Zach Riggs is pretty amazing, and Amy Malaya and others. So, and then I'd say Mark Stewart's probably the king of getting referrals from other agents. So he's kind of the guy on that. And I'll say, like, in looking at getting referrals from other agents, every event I go to, I meet at least one agent that can send me referrals. And I get referrals from agents that I met like 5 years ago at events. So they're big. Other niches you can be in: the single buyers, pet-friendly neighborhoods, student housing, waterfront, golf course, first-time home buyers, condos. The pet-friendly neighborhoods are kind of interesting. So we have a dog park in Springfield and Nixon, right? Has anyone ever been there? Well, they exist. So. So you want to read this one? Next person.
Let's see. Baby boomers, seniors age 60 and up. They're selling their family home and downsizing to a smaller home or condo. Their children are echo boomers and their grandchildren are millennials.
And then I'll have the next person read the next one. So this one, I want to point out, so remember on the baby boomers, they're downsizing to smaller homes or condos. So if this were a niche where you said, I'm going to focus here, just remember everything needs to be about downsizing, smaller homes or condos. And then someone read the next one, the echo boomers.
Echo boomers, age 40s to 60s. They are buying a second home, investment property, or moving into a larger home. Their parents are baby boomers and their children are millennials.
Yeah. So these are your investors we were talking about, right? So there could be a second home. Has anyone sold a condo before? Sold one?
Yeah.
I've sold a couple of them, and like in Branson, and the ones I've sold, they said, we want a second home, but we're going to use it as a nightly rental.
Yeah.
Is that what yours did?
Yeah. And then we had to set them up with a property management company, and it's not, I don't enjoy it. I don't like that market.
It's not my favorite
Mike
either.
is the condo man, Mike
I can
Brown.
see that.
And I'm like, no.
There are agents in Branson though, that's all they sell. I mean, like, that is their thing.
Yeah.
So, next.
Millennials, age 20 to 40s. They're leaving the nest and buying the first home or condo. Their grandparents are typically baby boomers and sometimes echo boomers.
Yeah. So which one of these would you say you would identify with? Doesn't mean you're like them, just identify with.
The echo boomer.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I mean, do you look at your past clients and that would give you, because it's just what you would prefer?
Yeah. I mean, there's not a right or wrong answer to that. You know, I a lot of times will say that, not to make this a religious conversation at all, like my ministry is actually in what I do for a living because like I love working with some of these elderly clients. I love the elderly clients. Mainly because they really need my help. Like they really need help. And someone that's not ethical could take advantage of that. And it's very challenging and I love those. The echo boomers. Michael said, we relate to the echo boomers moving on to our second home and investments. Yeah. So I think it's important to know where you relate or where do you enjoy, like what brings you energy? Because what you're passionate about will come across. And if you're not passionate about it, it comes across there too. So I mentioned the Chinese culture because, like I said, the MSU partnership we have, that's a big market. The Ukrainian market is also going to be huge. I know because of what's going on, they're actually allowing a lot of refugees to come here. And so there are a lot of Ukrainian families that are buying homes for the people moving here. So just some things to think about. They said that 11% of all homes sold are sold to a foreign-born customer. That was more than I thought. So real quick, the next person, we read these because I thought this one was really important for anyone that's worked with someone that's a foreign-born customer. Can you read that far?
Be prepared to explain U.S. legal issues and local market conditions. Clearly explain your credentials and what agency means and how it works. Familiarize yourself with the foreign client's culture, home economy, politics, and even a few words, especially thank you. Get your certified international property specialist designation.
I think it's important if you choose to go down the route of working specifically with some of the foreign-born customers is you really have to take into consideration what their culture is and make sure that they understand what you're talking about. It just takes a little bit of extra effort to make sure that they understand. So
I have a question.
please.
What is the last thing, the certified CIP is?
There is a certification you can get through the National Association of Realtors for that. So
You need to go online to get it?
I'm not real sure what the process is. I think you might be able to do it all online now. I mean, you used to have to go to classes seated. So, and there is a certification you can get for that. It's through the National Association of Realtors. So I'll help you get the information if you want.
Well, thank you, that would be great.
Yeah. So other things that say you could do, learn the language, learn their customs, which that is actually really big, learning their customs. I've had a couple of those instances where I didn't realize in their culture, you talk directly to like one of the spouses and not the other. So it can be uncomfortable. So next person, read this one real quick. I think we're back down to you.
Oh, hold on, I lost my page.
Okay. Page 32.
Okay. Oh, I'm almost there.
I'll help you on this one.
I got it. Often, you said 32, right?
Yeah.
Let me make sure it's actually
Select
32.
your phone.
No, I'm on the real 32, not the actual 32. Hold on.
I'll be with this one.
Okay, I'm there.
The second Okay, go ahead.
One of the most common niches in real estate is the market for second homes, which is larger than most think. A survey by NAR found that nearly 35% of home sales that year were second homes, that is vacation homes or investment homes. The typical investor that emerges from this survey is someone who wants to buy a single family house and consult with a real estate agent in their search. 68% believe that now is a good time to buy real estate, and nearly half are strongly contemplating other investment property purchases within 2 years. Make yourself known as an agent who likes to work with investors. Promote that message in your advertising and when networking. Make an effort to meet investors and market your success with them. Write about real estate investing in the press or on your website. Offer seminars on investing in real estate. Become the first person in real estate or real estate investors think of when they need an agent. Vacation home buyers tend to be a little older than investors. They buy fairly small, about 1,300 square feet, single-family vacation homes. As baby boomers continue to approach retirement, the number of vacation homes buyers is likely to grow. As with investors, vacation home buyers can be reached by a real estate agent who creates a specific message for them. Get to know where nearby vacation homes are located and the features and benefits that attract people the most. Create a unique selling proposition that speaks to your ability to provide outstanding service and expertise. Set a goal to become known as the agent who people think of when they start thinking about buying a vacation home, or who sellers in that niche think of when they need to sell their vacation home.
So the main thing I want you to walk away with this right here, has anyone read the MREI?
I'm working on it. Michael Rice posted something too.
That's a question. How do you get investors to want to work with you? I think, was that right?
To sign an agency.
Okay.
Yeah. How do you get them? Okay. How do you overcome them not wanting to sign an agency agreement? I guess simply, what are your goals? What are your financial goals? And are you willing to be patient to find it? I mean, I guess I would just script practice with objection handling. Yeah.
My experience with that is a lot of times there's a misunderstanding there. Like they think, what I've heard said is they think they can't go find a property if they've signed an exclusive agency agreement with you. Like if they find another property, they think they have to work with that agent. You just need to educate them a little bit on how things work.
So I'll tell you what I do is I have a list of investors that I know won't work with exclusively just me. And as a matter of fact, I know one that he uses me, he's used Rhett, he's used Dan, and I just know going into it, he's not going to work exclusively with me. And yet I have him on my list that he doesn't work exclusively with anybody. So when I find something off market and I want to sell it to someone, I call him. I, on the other hand, have some investors that will only work with me, and they're on a different list, and they're the first ones I call.
Mm-hmm.
And they understand the value of working with just me. And most of them, so some of them will work with only me, and some of them will only work with me inside of Nixa. And so some of them say, here's your niche, and we're only working with you inside of your niche. And so I guess just understanding what their goal is and how you guys can complement each other. That's what I do. So, and to be honest with you, I don't take every client. So, you know, I wouldn't go, if someone didn't want to work with exclusively me, I'm sure not going to go spend my entire weekend with them. So, luxury home clients. So we talked about that a little bit. So I think some agents here locally that do a great job of this is, I think Dan and Adam have really done an amazing job getting into that luxury market. If you have an interest in doing that, you should pick the brains of someone on their team or go to the KW Luxury Homes. You could go on their website, you can call them. So if your focus is, Keller Williams has a designation for that. And then, like I said before, you know, Mark Stewart is the go-to for agent-to-agent referrals. So if you ever want to know how he built it, I go to Mark. But the one thing on here I did want to point out, I love this quote: determining your farm or niche is only limited by your imagination and your opportunities to target them. So, okay, so now we're going to be going into like, how do we create this plan? What does this plan look like? So we've kind of covered the basics of like, what is a farm? We know what a farm is. We've covered the different types of farms you can have. And so now we're going to kind of shift starting into how do you create that plan that's for you. So first you have to start with like identifying like, what is it that you want? Like, what's the personality? What's the fit? What's the image? What are the values? What are yours? What are the ones you're looking to attract? So Cassie, can I put you on the spot?
Sure.
You know, when we go to the teachers' breakfast, do you remember what we say our job is and our passion? That's right, I'll tell you. So the slogan we say for our focus is that selling real estate is our job and the community is our passion. So that's our slogan, is real estate's our job and the community is our passion. So you can call me if you have a question about anything in the community, and I'm going to help you with it. And of course, I would love to sell your home for you. So, and we say that at all of our events, right?
Yes.
Because to me, the person I'm looking to attract is a person that loves Nixa, loves their community, loves their schools. All right, so let's do a quick exercise. So have you guys worked on your unique selling proposition, USP? Okay, so there's an exercise, it's on page 35. And I'd like you to go through, take just about 5 minutes and fill this out. So we're gonna go through a handful of exercises. We're gonna do a couple of them by yourself, a couple of them in a group, and then we're gonna talk to them collectively. And so if you guys have filled this out, and worked through this, I believe this was something you've been working on in the past, so.
We're doing the exercise on page 36 or?
35
Okay.
should be refine your.
It's all one. Okay.
So as you're filling this one out on page 35, I want you to take just a minute because we're gonna start working through first, like, who are we? What are we looking for? We kind of need to start there before we get to the actual business plan part. So I want you to write down some thoughts. If you were to create a farming area for yourself, what would you write down of who you wanted to market to? Is that a geographic? Are you going to start with a subdivision, a street? Well, what is that for you? So I want you to write that somewhere on there as well. as you're writing, I'll share this with you. I'll tell you something really genius that someone that we all know has done. Zach Riggs. If you have an apartment to sell, who are you gonna call? You're gonna call Zach, right? If you're looking for multifamily of a big scale, even if you just want information, you're gonna call Zach. Think how genius it is what he's done. And of course, he owns a lot of property. He has done some amazing things for himself. And yet he has created like his own little niche of people. Have you guys heard his story of how he built this out? You guys ever heard him tell a story? It's really cool because in the beginning, I remember when he first came, I don't know if it was his first came over, before Zach Riggs had all this that he's got now. I remember when he was building it and he had just started with getting lenders that he could start getting to know. And hey, if you have property come up from foreclosure, I'm looking to invest in some, just give me a call. And then he strategically started to go by and visit them regularly. And he started to market to them. Like that was his niche. That was what he chose. It wasn't geographic in any form. It was choosing the right people to market to. Genius. Okay, has everyone had a chance on 35 to kind of refine this? So what I'd like you to do is pick a partner. So we're just gonna do groups of 2 and just share with them like what you're talking about doing, share with them everything you've got, get some feedback on it, and let's talk about it collectively quickly. So just choose the person next to you, person behind you, groups of 2, take a few minutes. All right.
Oops. How are you?
A lot of marketing.
Yeah, I think talking about it like what, so, yeah, I like who you are. So, like, I put that I don't just have a share years of customer service experience, you know, I stress about this. And I love Star Trek. Anything I can talk about in the movie, and I'm easy to connect.
Yeah, I would.
And then I sort of started working on my USB. I'm gonna go back and do that too. I'm an agent, highly motivated to help individuals and families find their
Childcare, education,
and then my neighborhood, I've been doing Schuler's Woods, and had 2, and then 2 more coming. So I've been doing Schuler's Ridge. And then, so I need to make sure. So I'm going to dedicate myself to making sure that everybody knows that I'm a realtor. They're
So
gonna be a
I know
sign
the
of
image, are you gonna,
and then,
I just think of a couple different agents that are like kind of cowboy, I don't know if like mine is gonna be your thing.
no one has sold a home in my neighborhood since I
Type of guy,
normal
guy that lives in the suburbs.
Yeah,
You know,
I know, it's a great neighborhood, so.
I have enough experience in
No, I
the
take
type
that
of
back.
sales that
A
I've
neighbor
done my
across the
whole life
street
where
did sell,
I
but
can
I
relate
was
to
to
anyone.
yet.
Like I don't have a problem with relating to other people, you know, if it's a farmer.
So I also
I
have,
think I'm gonna be similar in that category.
so I'm thinking about heights,
So
which is a
it's really hard for me to pinpoint one clientele, because, you know, you and I both have taken care of all of
I need to
them.
research.
But and relating to that, you know, so whatever their interests are.
So just, yeah, looking to see, yeah, whether it's already 50% sold in the past year and a half, or if someone
Absolutely, yeah. But
because there's really
so I
nobody
started
that has
on
that.
my neighborhood, I live at Waterford and Ozark.
Nobody
Small.
has it.
That's always good.
That would be the best place to get on
Personal connections, like so. Family friends.
What's yours?
Yeah.
That have not met need to be marketed to 12 times per year, the MREA says, so. Each one of them is given, they each have their own area, so collectively, there's like 4 areas that we're targeting. So they each pick their own. They post and plan and pick their policies there. But how long is it? So I guess geographically, because I'm right there, and I'm gonna make that whole, town two.
We're just like that. Because it is what it is. But open houses, I like something, I like going out.
No, week. I have a 2-year-old, so we'll probably be there quite a bit. But I was thinking of creative things that I could do, like maybe sponsoring an ice cream truck to come and just communicate that through the neighborhood, saying, hey, Journey Home Group's gonna be sponsoring.
So you kind of target each fan.
I don't know how families feel about that. 'Cause it's kind of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
send it.
If you think about that, like
My
when
kids
kids
feel
should
really particular about that, so I didn't know if that would be an issue, but that
comfortable
would be.
conversation. Something that you know, even if you can talk about it, and then maybe I can
One more piece of
whatever.
ice cream by $1, something.
But yeah, I
$2.
don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you just get ice cream sandwiches for like 35 cents a piece.
Thanks for that advice. You're gonna see.
I know I put this into words.
That'll be part of my plan this summer.
I mean, I think that's a really good idea if you're in the subdivision.
Yeah, definitely.
Or you have June or ice cream sandwich day at the pool or whatever.
Who's making our USP right now?
Are you guys there?
Yeah, we're at the.
I kind of live in the fact that I don't live in the subdivision because
I was gonna have everyone do it.
that's what, the benefit of the guy and his subdivision. It's a lot harder to break into a subdivision if you don't live in a subdivision.
It's crazy. The amount of repeat signs that you see in that subdivision.
Okay.
It's like, there's definitely some farming going on at certain ages, and it's paying off,
Oh, yeah.
But
we're
work over the years.
that are fun.
For instance, one,
Which one feels more like
her mother's very, very
like what you?
obvious in that neighborhood. So I'm guessing it started back when your daughter was about the home. She raised her 18-year-old son.
Because I think if you're drawn to it and you're passionate about it,
Another minute, and we're gonna talk about
it'll give you more value.
How long have you
So
been?
it'll give back to you while you're because you,
That was
it's not altruistic, it's never altruistic.
Yeah.
You don't get as much joy as
Yeah.
done. I had taken over the kitchen for the last 2 years. And that's what pretty much drove me out. People just not like to be around people, so isolating the kitchen. Owner operator, so.
She introduced me to.
I wasn't, like, it was just.
Does it take a lot of your time? But you just feel like you're not, you just feel like you're not.
What would it be like?
We just talked about that, by the way.
But not having it.
So I mean.
Are you serious? We put in the world, we put it out to the world and it came.
Yeah, and so she also did it.
Right.
This is actually exactly what we talked about when we met.
And then he, you know, he's part of the Chamber of Commerce. He does, is on the Carolina Foundation. She started a training
All right, guys, what were some ahas or takeaways that you had for going together?
That's good. That's great, man.
Well, what were some ahas or takeaways or some thoughts you had after talking about this with your neighbor?
Okay, the 5 seconds moment.
Okay.
That was 5 seconds, you decide right now. Okay, that was a aha.
Yeah, I second rule, love that.
Yeah.
What else? What may be some takeaway you had from your conversation about this after refining this a little bit?
Well, I need to make sure I own my neighborhood. Right now, it's fine, but that could change tomorrow, so I've got to get out there and make sure I own it.
Yeah.
And then own the neighborhood above me once they move in.
Love that. What else? Own your neighborhood.
I think it was easier for us to start geographically because both of our pasts are people oriented. And so it's really hard for us to narrow down a certain type of person that we like to work with, but we both are adamant about the area that we're gonna own. So that was easy to start geographically and then expand from there. And maybe once we get where you're at, we can be a little more choosy on who we work with. But right now, we want everybody.
Yes.
You know, it's funny, a couple of years ago, I went back and re-looked at like my business to see, I was like, question myself, am I farming the right areas? And so I was like, I'm gonna go back and look at all my past clients. And I started writing out like characteristics of all my past clients. And although I spent hours and hours on this, you know what I came to find out was I was doing business with my farm. And so the people that live in Nix are people that either do business with me or send me most of my referrals. So I did a lot of homework just to realize that I don't need to do anything different. So, so what else?
Affirmation.
Right, yeah, yeah, so.
Is there ever too many farms? Or when would you know that you're doing too many?
Okay, so what do you mean too many?
Let's start with like
Time.
the 12 touch. So the have not mets is a 12 touch per year, generates, I think one's closing or two, I can't remember.
I think it was 2.
2. So in my head, I'm very calculated out, thinking, okay, 12 touches. So for instance, you start with door knocking.
Okay.
And then, you know, each month in my head, it breaks it out evenly that way. There needs to be 12 contacts with the have not mets. So say, for instance, my subdivision has 150 homes. What does that model look like for 12 months?
Okay, we're gonna go over that.
Okay.
So that's a part of this.
Because I feel like that would determine what's too much, because, you know, obviously you have a budget that you're gonna have, I mean, obviously we would do everybody always if that was no restrictions, but how many people can you maintain those 12 times per year and be able to afford it and keep up with it?
So we're gonna go into some more detail in a minute, and I'll go ahead and answer your question, because I don't want to not answer it. I think the answer is start small, because you need systems for anything you do. Like, so two of my favorite takeaways from Gary Keller is and this one has nothing to do with this, it's just my favorite takeaway from Gary, is everything in real estate is just a mathematical equation. And it's our job to simplify it down to that mathematical equation, because when you can do that, you can figure anything out.
And that's where I'm at with the 12 touches for my have not mets.
Yeah.
So I'm like, where are those 12 touches? How can I create them? And I want to map them out. It'd be nice to have them all mapped out prior to the campaign.
Yeah. I mean, my second takeaway with Gary is that everything that we do is a system. And start small, create a system for it, and then add another part to it. So if that's 10 houses that you're gonna do first, and I'm gonna know everything about these 10 people that I can, these 10 houses, and I'm gonna create a system for how I'm gonna communicate with them, and then I'm gonna go to the next street and I'm gonna add 10 more, or whatever that looks like. Scale it, would be my recommendation. Start small and scale it. Because when you have a system in place, you already know what needs to happen to go to that next step. Does that make sense?
So what I hear you saying is that me focusing on 150 in my neighborhood is too big.
I mean, it's your system, whatever system you want to start with. And we'll talk about it in a little more detail. Do you know what you're gonna do? How much it's gonna cost you? How much time is it gonna take? And are you willing to do it?
Yes, and yes.
Then it's not too big. I mean, if you know the plan, you could be consistent with it and you can track your results. Because keep in mind, you might have to put forth the money for 6 months to a year before you can measure it. So if that's the case and you say, yes, I can do that, then it's the right one for you. And we'll go over that in a little more detail.
But back to her question though, wouldn't it be that the larger your farm is, the less concentrated you're going to be successful in? Like you could focus on one subdivision and maybe have 30 or 40% market share in a subdivision. But if you're trying to spread yourself to 10 subdivisions, you're probably not going to have 30 to 40% of 10 subdivisions.
You're right. So hold on just a minute.
Okay.
So, okay, so we're gonna measure mets and unmets. It's your business plan. We're gonna create your business plan of mets and unmets. And to whatever the percentage you want from that and what the plan is to attack it, because if I'm gonna do an open house, I'm only doing it in Nixa because that's my market. If I'm gonna go door knocking, I'm only doing it in Nixa because that's my market. Like, I know where I'm spending my time and I know where I'm spending my money. To me, it's not worth going anywhere else. And so to answer your question, like, yes, whatever your plan is for unmets to mets, and your goal is to always get more mets than unmets, right? Like, we're gonna create that business plan. Do you remember from the MREA in lead generation? It actually gives you formulas for mets and unmets and how to get transactions out of it. That's what this is. Do you have that?
Yeah, but what about like if you have, like, we'll say it's demographic, it's not actually geographic, it's demographic. And we have one is with the school system, teachers, and one is with older people.
Okay.
And I'm part of those groups. Should I focus on one or should I scale? Like you just said, should I start maybe with the smaller one and then work my way up, or should I just do it?
So I would say, do you have the first one in place? Have you mastered it? Are you getting predictable results from it? Do you have a system around it? And if the answer is no, then focus on the first one until you can have, and then move on to the second one. But you remember Gary gives us a triangle, right? And what happens when the triangle is upside down? Yeah.
Are you talking about creativity and models?
Yes.
So farming is a model. We want a business plan first. We want to put it into place. We want to go back and see, what did it take to do it? What are the results we're getting from it? Where do we need to make adjustments and where can we scale it?
So probably adjust our thoughts from networking to farming. So if maybe we're in a network with a couple of different things, we need to figure out how to farm those things.
If I'm going to go to a chamber meeting, I'm only going in Nixa. If I'm going to any type of meeting, I'm only doing it in my farm.
Right.
Like, I'm strategic with what I do and where I do it. I love to give back, and yet I only give back in Nixa.
Right.
Right? I'm serious. Like, there's a theme to what I do, and there's a reason why I do it.
Right.
I mean, even Gary says, have part of your business plan be strategic giving. I mean, that comes straight from Gary. So, great ahas. For lack of time, I don't want to skip this because it's so important. And yet, let's take just a minute. So on page 36, and we're going to have to move quick, guys. So go through this, just take 2 minutes and look at this, write down, like, how could you benefit your clients? This is still important, and it's a really big piece of the plan you're going to put together. So just take a couple of minutes, write this out if you haven't done it, because I don't want to skip it. Hey, great questions, by the way, guys. I love this. All right, just one more minute. And I know that I should do this quick. Well, I know I asked you to walk through this kind of quickly, one thing I will say from personal experience, this page right here, know this, reference back to it, and reference back to it again. Because if you know how you can benefit your clients, then you know what to say every time. And for me, if, you know, in the earlier you mentioned, I forget your exact words, but it was in calling and that fear of rejection, maybe. Like to me, when I'm making calls, I list out the values that that I can provide to them, why they would want to talk to me, and I make calls. And sometimes, you know, I cold call sometimes. And I know what my value is. I'm probably calling Nixa. I know the things that are going on in the community. I know events, even if they're not mine, I still know about them. And then I've got key talking points. So that helps me because then I tell myself, okay, everyone I call needs something from me, and it's my job to figure out what it is. And then that way, if I call them, even if I don't turn them into a client, I turn them into a Met, I put them in my database, and I follow up with them. Find some way to stay in touch with them. Okay, so I'm gonna move quickly through the next couple parts. So working your farm, so we've got a farm, we say this is the area we're gonna work, this is how we're thinking. The myth is I don't have the money to lead generate. Lead generation doesn't have to cost money. So you guys agree with that? Yeah. Okay. So establish your reputation first. So reputation versus relationship. So in the beginning, when you don't have a relationship with them, your reputation is what will help. So that's why I say start small. So if you start with one street, and I take this one street, and everybody on the street has met me, knows me, maybe a couple of them even were talking regularly. How much easier is it to go to the next street or ask who do they know, like whatever your farm you're creating. So reputation really determines the level of your success. I mean, I'll say Nixa, like they call me Mr. Nixa or Mayor of Nixa or whatever. It's because I'm just so involved with my farm, with where I'm at. So, oh, and be sincere. People can tell, you know, that's why I think knowing what your value is and being genuine, like, know how you can help them and come from a good place of contribution, because people can tell when you're not. And by the way, I would much rather work my farm and call my farm than cold call some for sale by owner. I mean, it works, don't get me wrong. And I'm not saying I don't do it or never done it. I'm just saying it's so much more fun to call your farm than it is to call some for sale by owner. So it's just about creating relationships. So in the beginning, it's a lot of prospecting based and marketing enhanced. So you have to find ways to get to know them, right? So, like, what are some examples? What would you do if you were going to take a neighborhood? How would you meet them?
I think the very first thing I would do is just knock on their doors and say, this has been a long time coming, but I'm your neighbor and I'm a real estate agent.
Yeah. What else?
And then I might throw like a block party and invite people to them in the summertime. I might take like different holiday things for their doorknobs, like, you know, Valentine's candy or 4th of July firecrackers or something like that.
There's probably a lot more opportunity if you live in the neighborhood. I would think, just,
Right.
you know, sponsoring the Easter egg hunt or, you know, ice cream social at the pool or so on and so forth. But not living in the neighborhood, you know, contacting the HOA if there was one, figuring out what their calendar looks like. I'm sure they have a calendar for the year. Just making yourself present in all whatever events they already have would probably be the cheapest.
Hey, so we're getting ready to go in, well, we're already in spring. You know what happens in spring? Every subdivision does it. Garage sales. You know what's coming up in the city of Nixa? A citywide garage sale. Like, you have an opportunity to go meet all these homeowners, whatever area you want to focus I'll tell you something that I've found a lot of success with, and this is my heart, so these are me finding my people, right? Is I find some nonprofit that I can help facilitate something through. And then I find the people that care about this like I care about it. So that's part of like finding my people, I guess, people that we have something in common. So, okay. So first you have to figure out where do you want to farm? Who do you want to farm? Now, once you determine that, you've laid that out, then it's all about how do I get them into my Met database. So Les is amazing at your Met database, right? So they went through that last time. This is getting them in. So we want to find out how we're going to go meet them and then how we're going to market to them. So here was kind of what I was referencing before. So you guys have this on page 40 in your manual. Okay. So here's where we start to put together your plan. So 1,000 homes, like it's okay. Does anyone want to read this first part? I guess let's read it first.
You can easily build a geographic farm of 1,000 homes within 1 year if you spend 2 hours every other week going door to door, spending only 3 minutes at each door, unless you come across someone who is thinking about buying or selling. Let's do the math. 1,000 homes divided by 26 weeks equals 39 homes you will visit in person per week, going every other week. 39 homes times 3 minutes is 2 hours if you're going door to door every other week.
So what do you guys think about that so far?
Well, very doable.
So 1,000 different homes?
It says.
But you only go see them once?
So that's so you have to start there, right? This says, how do you start?
Okay.
So you can easily build it by going every other week for 2 hours.
The same homes. The same 1,000 homes.
Well, actually, no. So this is saying.
That's
this is-
1,000 homes.
Yeah, so this is how do you go door knock on 1,000 doors? How do you meet them in person once? Because then after you meet them, you're gonna do an 8 by 8.
Oh, so you mean I have to talk to 1,000 people,
Yes.
not just door hang? You
Yes.
mean there's
So
gotta be.
I'm gonna go
somebody
through some
beside.
issues. I'm gonna go knock on the door. And
Someone's gotta answer.
then after I go talk to you, then I'm gonna put you on an 8 by 8. I'm gonna put you on a 12 direct. So there's where we're gonna start coming into our marketing, right? The prospecting is what opens the door. So now that's door knocking being the choice on this one.
Right.
There are other methods.
What is your method of collecting that information at the door? Just have a clipboard
Could be. if you want
or
to do it
just
that
on your
way.
phone?
I had a client I used to coach and they had a plat map of the subdivision.
Uh-huh.
And then they had like a questionnaire that they used the same questionnaire for each person. And they put an X by the people they talked to on the plat map. And so then when they came back to that same subdivision, they knew who they already talked to. So
Run that by me again. You said they have a questionnaire.
yeah, like, so they go through their script, they get the information from the people. So what their name is, what their address is. You know, if they have, so like he would say, if he noticed a dog barking or if there was a cat there, he would make a notation what their pet was. And he always had like so if the dog walks up, he'd say, oh, I love dogs. You know, I'm constantly volunteering at the rescue. How many animals do you have? Or if there's a cat, he'd say, man, my wife loves cats. What kind of cats do you have? You know, or what, you know, those are just examples of what he would do. And it could be, hey, do you know there's a movies night in the park down the road? I didn't know if you have kids or not. I just want to make sure that before I leave, you knew about it. Like, so.
Using a flat map, I think is.
Yeah, so he had a plat map, so then he didn't hit the same door twice. So then he would come around until he had all the people in the subdivision in a spreadsheet.
We're about to comment.
Thank you.
Do not go back.
If you visit them quarterly, then it's only 250 homes. If you're farming, hit them 4 times a year door knocking. So anyways, the formula, the next one is on the formula. If you want to figure out yours, what that would look like for your farm. And we're going to keep moving because of time on this one. Does everyone understand that? Does that make sense? Okay.
So it's really 1,000 mets. It's not 1,000 homes, it's 1,000 mets.
So if there are 1,000 homes in this neighborhood, and I wanted to get all of them inside, then this is what the plan would be to go and door knock to get them. So yes, I need to talk to 1,000 people to be able to get them in there. I think it even says in here, unless you come across someone who's thinking about selling.
That takes longer.
Yeah.
One of the things I just caught on the tip on the bottom of that sheet, I thought was impactful. It says, if, for instance, you find a lot of sellers in an area who are looking to buy a larger home, consider developing a new geographic farm in an adjacent neighborhood with bigger, newer, higher priced homes that you can promote to sellers in your original farm. I thought that was pretty impactful.
Right, that's.
So I used to door knock Forest Park, I told you that. And I would go over to the Columns and the Springs, and I would have houses for sale over there because they're bigger houses. And so when I would door knock Forest Park, I would already have the houses that are on the market in those other subdivisions. Because I know if I go over there, those are entry-level homes. And so those people a lot of times would be stepping up to the next home. So I already had the list prepared, but this is what's on the market.
Good idea.
So bird dogging, this was a funny one. Didn't heard this word bird dog before?
Of course.
What's it mean?
It's, I mean, in hunting terms, the bird dog goes out, sniffs out the birds out of the brush, and you stand in the back with a shotgun and you shoot them out of the sky.
It's a gruesome description.
That's what happened. That's what happened. But bird dogging is also used in like medicine. So you go send a medical student into a room to have them take a history of present illness. And then they can report it back to, like, say, a surgeon. The surgeon doesn't sit there, waste his precious time, like listening to this lady tell a story about her grandkids, but just history, present illness on paper. This is what you should expect. And then he can walk in, save time, and go straight to operational talk.
I appreciate that one so much more.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's awesome. So yeah, a bird dog in this reference would be finding a person in the neighborhood that knows everything.
That's their only job in life.
Yeah,
There
right.
was a lady, our first home we owned, her house was 2 stories and ours was 1. And we called her the eyes in the sky because she had nothing better to do with her life but sit and like, what are you doing in your backyard? And she was that girl. So
Yeah.
she was the one. Not that we liked her, but she knew everything. And she was the one that always stirred the pot in the HOA page. It's that person will tell you everything. They'll tell you their names, what they do wrong, who's gonna move.
That's right.
The eyes in the sky or the bird
Oh,
dog.
yeah, they
That
just
person
got a
on the
divorce.
side.
They'll be moving pretty soon.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
they start
they'll
telling
tell
you the
you.
tea.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the reference was when you're choosing your farm, find out who is that person.
Okay.
I'm being serious. That really is. Find that person because that person will tell you
Find them.
everything.
They'll
So,
see you first. They'll come chasing.
Yeah. When I sold a house to this lady and her criteria was she wanted a window looking back because she wanted to be able to look into her neighbor's house. True story. And this lady was like in her 70s.
Man, you know she reads those like dirty novels. watches like daytime TV, like, oh, I can't wait to get my Y&R, baby. You know?
That's hilarious. That's so good.
Extending that to Brian's comment, go find me a deal. Yeah, I love that one. Yeah. Also, another reference on this is who are your core advocates? Who are the people that love you? Because those people in your farm, and I'll go back to reference, I said this when I was doing team meeting. It's like your 12th man on the field in the football realm. Like, who are the people that are cheering for you, rooting for you, because they will tell everybody about you. So make sure they're part of your farm, you're adding value to them. So come from contribution, we've mentioned that several times. So what are the value you can give to your farm? So how can you help them? And that goes back to that values things we were doing when we go on page 36. And also, I'm going to add to, like, what values do you share with them? Like, they're probably going to follow you on Facebook, right? Like, what values do you share as in, okay, what do you absolutely love besides your family?
Dogs,
Yeah, what nonprofit do you support wholeheartedly?
Rescue One.
I mean, like, that's just her heart. So like, for Cassie, I would say, who are the people around you that love animals? Because that's an easy one. Most people are gonna relate with you. They're gonna see you on Facebook she goes and picks up a dog and takes it for a ride from the shelter in her car, right?
Yeah, for ice cream cones.
She really does. And also I mentioned, coming from contribution, like find a charity that you can mutually support too, that Rescue One being one. So, different ideas create a directory. You can organize a neighborhood yard sale. You can create a website, create a neighborhood email or Facebook group. I think Joy Bray actually did a good job on that. So, don't tell her I said that.
I know.
Just kidding. So what are some ideas for low or no cost items you could give away? If you were going to, let's just say for a second, you're going to call or send something to people. Talking about that 12 direct we were talking about a while ago. Let's brainstorm for a minute together. What could we send them, or what value could we give them? And before we do this, would someone volunteer to kind of be described, just to write these down for us? You don't have to do it up front in front of everybody, just write it down.
I can write down.
Thank you. Okay, so what are some ideas?
Neighborhood market, like market update, like what's been previously sold.
Okay, would that be an email that went out, or would that be a postcard?
Probably a postcard because I haven't got their email yet.
Okay.
Potentially.
Okay. So postcard until you have their email?
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
About stuff in the community.
Okay, love that. Community updates. Yep. What else?
Tell me your name.
Levi.
Levi had a great suggestion. In his subdivision, he has a swimming pool. Talked about having a ice cream day where he provides ice cream for everyone at the community swimming pool.
Love that.
I don't know if that would fall under cost effective, but
Well, okay, so there are those little popsicles, those frozen deals you can get. I mean, they're cheap.
Yeah.
Like that wouldn't cost me.
Oh, yeah, the little ones that come.
Yeah.
You freeze them when you get them home.
Yeah.
nice.
Something like that.
Those are like 10 cents a
You talked me
piece.
off the ledge because I was gonna sponsor the ice cream
Truck, and I'm like,
He's
that's gonna cost you a fortune. I said, at least go to Sam's Club and buy like ice cream sandwiches in bulk or something, but.
Hey, find a vendor that would want to be
There you
a part of it, that if you put the man labor in, they'll pay for it.
That's what we did at Kelby Creek. We had a Santa and we had all the kids come, and we had a photographer promote their business. So they donated theirs. And so everybody got pictures.
Love it. What else?
One year somebody did flower seeds, like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them. I mean, it made an impact because people were complaining about them, but just because there was so much, it was repetitive, which is good.
People hate flower seeds?
Like, I don't know.
So let's break it down a little bit different. So let's start towards the beginning of the year. What's something you can send around New Year's?
Calendar.
Okay, calendar. What's something else you could tell people about or send them?
New Year's resolutions, goals.
Fitness. Is there a gym that has a special for first of the year? Could you connect them with that, whoever that is? Do people set financial goals at the beginning of the year? You're looking to market towards investments. What's something you could send Valentine's Day or call people about?
Date night, like great date night locations.
Okay, love that. What else? Ooh, you can have like a map of restaurants to go to. Love that.
What do you need to present in that case? Like what kind of paper, email, how do you do them?
Send them an email. What else? could you get a restaurant that if they came in and used your name, they would give them a discount? I mean, rather than spend money on advertising, could you agree to advertise for them for a certain discount for your clients on one night only?
Especially if it's like a small, newer restaurant or something like because, you know, you want to go to a good restaurant on Valentine's Day, you're not going to get in unless you plan.
So in the past, we've gotten restaurants to give free dessert for anyone that came and used our name. And we had like 1 or 2 restaurants that would agree to that for just for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, okay.
My insurance agent sends me a postcard on my birthday for a free pizza at a specific place, and I think he only has to pay when those get redeemed. And I've got one the past 10 years, I've never used it.
And you remember.
But I remember.
Yeah, you remember though.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't ever think about it.
So you have to redeem it that specific day or something?
I think you have like a certain period of time to redeem
Starbucks
it.
does the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, I redeem those, don't worry.
Andy's, I think, does one,
Yeah.
so, I mean. So you kind of get the idea though, go through like the holidays and think, what could I do? I mean, think Thanksgiving, like what's something, Thanksgiving, Christmas, both, would be a big value to people. I got it. This is big.
Ham discount.
Okay, what else?
You were probably gonna say pie. You're gonna say pie.
Could, wasn't going to, that's good. What else? Huh?
Tape, I don't know,
Tape.
like Scotch tape.
Well, yes, that's true. Yeah, Christmas.
Those,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I like that. I mean, does anyone have family over Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Alcohol, no, I'm kidding.
I like how you think. I was gonna say, what about cleaning their carpets?
Oh,
What about getting a
yeah,
carpet
that's
cleaner
not
to
what
give you a discount? I would rather, I like yours.
Models.
I mean, like a carpet cleaner, get a carpet cleaner, give you a discount. Give a certain time frame that they call and use your name and get a discount. Get the carpet cleans before Thanksgiving.
Spring cleaning, that'd be good.
Yeah, we have a junk removal guy, right? Like, how about the shredding company, you know, like rent it for an hour. Have it, you know, in your farm or here, have your farm come here.
I like that idea. Pay to have the shred truck there for an hour and just invite everyone to come out and shred their stuff. That would be
You have an excuse to call them, you can email them. Okay, so, and I could go on with that. I have brainstorming idea for hours, so I want to keep going before we're almost out of time. So on page 45, here's an idea of what you could do for like, you mentioned like market updates for your farm. So this would be something good as a template, and I would write in here, like, what could you add to this that's not on here that would be specific to your farm? Like, as an example, days on market, average sales price, I don't know.
Year over year.
Yeah, so anything think about, is there something that's not on here that you could use, yet this is a good template that you could use for what to provide to them? So basically where your customers are, you know, walk the neighborhood, reputation is key, join a club. I honestly, like, to me, what I think of is relationships. Just remember, like, to farm is to get into relationship with them. So when, like, I would prefer relationship selling than cold selling all day long, because I want to choose who I do business with, and I want to do business with people that I like. I want to do business with people that are like me, that have similar interests in me. So that's how I choose to do the farm, and then I find those people within that and market to them. And you have to be in a relationship, which means you have to talk to them. You have to send them stuff of value. I mean, is anyone in here married? I am. A couple people, okay, not pointing fingers, ones that aren't. I'm just saying, like, could you imagine not ever providing anything of value to your spouse? Like never buying your spouse flowers or getting flowers, or never taking them out on a date, or never just calling and saying, how are you doing? Are things going okay? Like, if we're going into a relationship with people, we've got to stay in touch with them. And we've got to find things that interest them, things that are of value to them. Isn't that so much better than thinking I'm going to call a for sale by owner, by the way? I mean, yes, both work, and we sometimes need both aspects of that business. And yet being intentional about getting into business with certain people, and that's so much more appealing. Okay, so I said I would do a role play with you. Do you want to see the role play? If we did, we'd have to do quick.
No.
Or do you want me to keep going and,
I say do the role play. We can always read this
okay,
material later.
okay. Are you guys okay if we go 5 minutes over? Okay, if you need to go, you can. And all right, you want to role play with me?
Let's do it.
Okay, so if I were going to take a neighborhood and I were going to go door knock the neighborhood, this is probably what it would sound like for me.
What would you have in your hand? Like what type of material would you have?
Okay, great question. So, knock knock.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Jason Maskiel. I'm a local real estate agent. Do you have just 2 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I'm working with this family and they're looking to move to specifically this neighborhood. And man, I've looked at everything on the market and just nothing really caught their eye. And I promised the husband and wife that I would just go around and knock on a few doors and just see if anyone has thought about moving. Do you know of anyone in the neighborhood that's thinking about moving?
Oh, we certainly aren't. I don't know.
You're not?
No.
You love it here, huh?
Yeah. We've been here since 2005.
Oh, wow. You've been here quite a while.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of the area?
I really like big whiskeys over there, so we're walking distance from it.
I love it. Pause for 2 seconds. I would probably take a little bit of time and I would have some rapport and get to know him. And I'm going to fast forward to answer your question. Hey, Justin, man, thanks for taking a few minutes to visit with me. I sure enjoyed talking with you. Before I leave, have you ever been to one of the movies nights in the park? They're just like right down the road.
Yeah, I see cars down there. Is it Friday night, Saturday night?
Actually, it's Saturday night, and we have a total of 6 of them. And me and my team are actually the ones that put it on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'd love to have you come over and just visit with us. And if nothing else, just bring your kids out to the movie one night. Here's a flyer on when the movies are. And if you want, I can even send you an email with all the information.
Oh, okay, yeah, because, yeah.
I'll stop there. You get my point? I probably would have taken something of value. I probably wouldn't have taken real estate. So just me personally. And I used the movies night in the park and I might have taken something else. So, and honestly, it doesn't even have to be my event. I might be taking something from the next citywide garage sale. And I might have information on the best tips on how to have the best garage sale or something. I might come up with something just generic and corny, and I might just say, it's a really big deal in Nixa. And I know for Nixa, like the garage sales are one of our largest economic and development in bringing people to our town. And I just want to help all of the people that live here. What's that?
My husband hates it.
I do too.
He stays out of town. Like,
Yeah,
we're leaving, we're not going.
It's our first year there.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see.
You can't
But
move.
I might say, I want to make sure that since you live here and I love Nixa, that everybody that I know here in Nixa is going to get the most out of this one-day event.
You do?
Yeah, we're across the street.
What a bag.
And Tiffany Highland.
So is that Nixa garage sale? Like it's like the whole city, it's legendary. Everybody knows about it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, so another business that does something pretty amazing in reference to this would be McDonald's. It actually does a map for all the garage sales, and if you turn them in by a certain time frame, McDonald's gives everybody a map.
So when do they start printing that map out so I can start stealing your?
He's like,
You guys watching the map?
Hey, no, I'd rather you have it than some other people. If you want to, literally just come up with tips of how to have the most productive garage sale and just go hand it out. Come from contribution. And while you're there, get to know them, get their information. And remember, there's always something you can email them later, so that way you have an excuse to get their email address.
Like, do you really know when that map comes out though?
I don't
You probably
actually.
print it.
If you call the Chamber of Commerce, they'll tell you.
Alright.
So I don't know.
It's
What map are you talking
probably,
about?
Hmm?
What map are you referencing?
It's the garage sale map.
it'll probably come out the weekend
Okay.
before, probably the first,
Probably that week prior.
because
That's a
It's-
great idea.
it's Mother's Day weekend, right?
It is, yeah.
Yes, which is
The 8th.
like a mom
I'll
wants
be
to
in
have a garage.
Arkansas, town. I won't have to deal with it.
All right, guys.
So give us some other ideas of, other than the garage sale and stuff, like, give me some other ideas, because I live out in the country, and so like knocking and talking about a citywide garage sale isn't gonna work for me.
I live in the country too.
Okay,
I live on a farm.
okay.
I don't live, I don't
But what
actually
if you're
live in
gonna
it.
knock on people's doors that live in the country? I can't talk about garage sale.
Talk about cows.
What about maintenance? Like how often you should get your septic pump?
That's a good idea. I
Or
like that,
ways
yeah.
to manage a septic tank or well, or I don't know,
I
whatever.
would also go back to,
Is that a good idea?
yes, no, it's a great idea. I would also go back to your farm. Who are they? What are the 3 questions?
Who are they?
Where do they live? And what do they like?
Okay.
It took me a second. I'm like,
Your ideas are great, and those are only on where they live. So what do they like? And, okay, so if your farm is those people, that's gonna take a lot more time to build that. And so, like, to me personally, I'm not saying you, I would probably find out what do those people have in common, that I might find other ways to get to know them? Or is it just specifically like that geographical area you're wanting?
Well, the reason why I had the idea is I live in the country in between Rogersville and Fordland.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I should start farming the neighbors around me, because honestly, I've lived out there for 12 years and I know like 2 people. So I should go around and granted, we're all spread apart, but I thought I would go around and introduce myself and just tell them, if you decide that you're going to sell, who better to market your home than someone else that lives out here and enjoys living out here.
Go to the Saddle Club in Portland.
Yeah, see, I'm not about the.
I know, but you could pretend.
My cowboy, give me a cowboy
No,
hat.
just dress like normal and just go and
Say
meet
y'all.
people, because
On a
that's where
horse.
everybody
Y'all.
goes in Portland is the Saddle Club. I mean, they all go there.
Yes.
So look on page 48 real quick. So
Laura.
it's important to know who your farm is, and it's important to have a business plan before you go out and attack this. We can talk all day long on how we're gonna do it, and we need to make sure we can because remember I said Gary's comment on, like, everything in real estate is a mathematical equation. So this is your mathematical equation, is on page 48. If you'll see, it breaks it out into METs and haven't METs, and how many do you need for each one. And I apologize that we ran short on time, and I'll walk through this with anyone that calls me and you want me to help you with that, I'll help you with it. If you're going to do some advertising like social media or mail outs to find your farm, just make sure it has some call to action, some reason why they need to call you. So that way you can make sure you collect their information. So have a call to action. And we've kind of talked about like things with your 12 direct, what you can do. And remember, go back to what Wes talked about. Like did Wes go through like how you get someone from a MET, like you first meet them to in your database to a MET, you're doing 36 touch? No, Wes did not.
Connecting.
Yes. Like, so the 8x8, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you meet them, put on 8x8, and you can transition them from 12 direct into your 36 touch. It's the same idea, what we're wanting to do. And so really the last thing that I'm going to leave you with, last 2 things I'll leave you with. If you get started and you're not getting the results out of your farm, you have to first back up and say, who did I intend to market to? Did I know my formula to know who I was marketing to, how many were in there, what results what was I going to expect? Like, I would even have on there, what's the date you're going to measure that? Like, pick out 6 months and say, this is the date, put it on my calendar, and here's what I'm going to look for. And this is what success looks like. And this is what if it's not successful, this is what it looks like. And then you're going to have to determine, do I want to change my tactics? Do I want to change what I'm doing? Do I want to just change the farm? And you've got to be able to measure it somehow.
So that's saying too that it's 50 haven't mets equals 1 transaction.
Or I could say 2% of the time. With the haven't met, 16.66 time for haven't met. And I'll help you walk through that. Did we talk more about the how and less on the why? Did we cover that at least? Maybe?
I think we brainstormed,
Okay.
but just me being honest, I still don't feel like I have a plan. Like, so what is a plan of success? When you go to farm a community, do you start with door knocking and then you do this and then you do this and then you do this? Like when you go to a painting class, you have a picture there and you know that the picture is gonna look how you make it, but they tell you how to get there. What is like some good plans? Like, I want to farm a community, first thing I do, I go door knock.
Okay, so where do you want to farm?
I'll just pick one, Roundtree.
The entire subdivision or one street on there?
What works?
Depends on what effort you're willing to put into it.
Yeah. So that's where I'm like, what do you do first? Like when you pick a neighborhood, what do you do first? Do you door knock first?
So do you want to do a street or do you want to do the whole subdivision?
We'll start with the street.
Okay, what street?
I don't know, just a street.
How many homes are you want to do?
It depends on how many are on it.
You can do the entire street no matter how many homes on, or are you going to limit it?
I guess that would be the big goal eventually, would be the whole street with all the homes, no matter how many there are.
Okay, so we'll say there's 20 houses on the street. Okay, how do you want to go and talk to them the first time?
Just walk and door knock.
Okay, great. So then when are you going to do that?
Tuesday.
Okay, what are you going to ask them when you get there?
They're know about it, just want to sell.
And if they don't, then what are you going to say?
Would you like us to update you on any aspects or prospects that move to the neighborhood, home values, things like that? We can send you an email.
Okay. What are you going to do with the information once you get it?
You're in my database.
What are you going to do with it then?
What works? Emails, phone calls, text messages, door knock again?
The one that you're willing to do.
Okay.
So we just walked through if you just execute what you just said, that is your plan to start. Who are you gonna do? Like, what's your area? Thank you. What's your area? What's your farm? What method are you gonna go to talk to them the first time? You could have told me I was gonna cold call them and that would have been the same. I mean, it might not be as effective. You could do it though. What are you gonna say when you get there? And what are you gonna do with their information when you get that? I mean, so don't overthink it. And come from contribution, find a way that you can add value. And anything you do, always add value. People want to know that you care before they care what you know. So you have to show them you care.
So follow up, it would just be the SMART plan telling you where to go from there. So you're saying after they're on a SMART plan, then you make your contacts and you continue your touches and then like a long-term nurture.
Yeah.
And then is there a frequency of how often they should be getting things back in the neighborhood? Like if you did a mailer after door knocking, like what is the frequency of the time between? Is there there's no really set.
So a 12 direct is just one communication a month.
Okay.
A 36 touch would be multiple, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea would eventually get everybody on a 36 touch. You could make up, my first step is just gonna be, I'm gonna get them on a 12 direct, which is just one communication every month.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a phone call, an email, maybe it's a letter, maybe I handwrite a letter. I mean, maybe if I'm going with his plan and I've got 20 houses, I could write 20 letters a month, right? I could do that. Especially if I'm getting started in the beginning and I don't have a budget for it. I mean, that's probably the cheapest thing to do. And just like we walk through all these things we could call and give value to someone, right? Pick one. And that's what I'm going to do this month. Matter of fact, I would write out all of the things you could do, put them on a paper, like all the different ways you could add value. And then when it comes time next month for the communication, just go back to your list and pick one. What did I do last month? What can I do this month? What are my farm's needs right now? It's really, all it is it's just prospecting. We're just being very specific with who we're going to interact with. And then our intention is to get in a relationship. At the same time, isn't that really your intention anyways when you're prospecting? Yeah. So we're just being specific and saying, this is who I want. And this is why I want them, because I know I can add this for these people. I know I can do this for them. So do we feel like we haven't how to implement or what to implement? Nope.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel better about it. Yes, absolutely.
What would be some takeaways you have?
Make a plan and do it. Just execute. And you'll learn as you go.
Repeat.
Repetition.
From my personal experience, it's easy to start, you know, and you look at some neighborhoods that we targeted, and we targeted them once. We got a pretty good response, and then we haven't done anything since. We've been nurturing those few leads, but it's like now we've kind of lost a little bit of ground from those neighborhoods because, you know, it's probably been 2 months since we've door knocked or sent a mailer, or any type of communication at all, so.
Yeah. Yeah, what other takeaways? Maybe two more and before we end.
I like starting small and then kind of building from there. You don't have to take it all at once.
Last all.
Would you say start with your heart or something like that?
Yeah, start with your heart, whatever you're passionate about. I mean, yeah, you have to, I mean, if you're gonna make calls anyways, make calls about things you're passionate about. All right. So thank you guys, appreciate you guys interacting.
What?
Jason, can we have your contact information?
Of course.
How often are you door knocking these days?